Hello everyone, good Monday afternoon. Welcome into SkyTower Weather Now. Hopefully you all are staying dry out there as it has been a bit of a soggy start to the work week here. We are getting some much needed rain here around the Sunshine State. Look back at this time lapse here where you can see that round of rain as it moved in. This was the view in Plymouth Harbor, Lido Key, the Sarasota area this morning as these rounds of rain have just been moving across the area, and we're starting to see some improvement out there over the last hour or so as the brunt of the rain and the storms is starting to push out of our area, and we'll really see that heavier storm coverage through the rest of our Monday afternoon and evening, focusing for areas closer to the East Coast. So here's the setup. We have been tracking this upper area of low pressure that's really just been hanging out here across the Gulf Coast for several days, that bringing all the active weather as closer to the surface. We've got this stationary boundary that's been stretched out across parts of North Florida. You see this cold front that's dragging across parts of the Gulf. The good news is that is going to start to bring us some more refreshing air over the next couple of days, especially once we move out the rain. You see this kind of batch of brown color that's sitting across parts of the state, but really extending further west into the Gulf. This is some drier air up in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. This will start to sink in across the state, and finally we get a little bit of relief from the high humidity levels. We've had just a lot of moisture kind of sitting right overhead the Sunshine State. That has been able to squeeze out some pretty impressive rainfall totals. And so we start by looking back at what we've seen the last day. All this active weather did start on Saturday, but Sunday is when we really started to ramp up this more widespread shower and storm coverage. And just look at these rainfall totals across the area, especially Polk County down into Sebring. We had this really intense batch of thunderstorms and heavy rain that just continued over the same areas, where we're seeing some radar indicated reports over 6.5 inches right from Sebring and up into Bartow, a little over 4 inches reported there. Just to the east of Arcadia, another rainfall report over 5 inches there. And we look closer to the coast where overall a lot of spots picking up on 2.5 inches. There were some kind of areas where we see this green color here where rainfall totals were a little bit lower, but overall a lot of us were able to benefit from this rain. And just this kind of speaks to the volume of the amount that we've seen over the last 24 hours. Now, granted, there is still some rainfall totals that we have not gotten in. These are some rainfall totals that I pulled together from some community reports of rain, and you see frostproof there, nearly 4 inches of rain there. St. Pete 3.91, pretty good for you. You kind of missed out on Saturday, and then boy did we see the big thunderstorms all across Pinellas County yesterday. Sarasota 2.3 inches of rain for you. Safety Harbor a little over 2 inches. And as we go ahead and look at the impacts for today, we still have this excessive rain outlook that is highlighted all across the area. Level 2 out of 4 for us. A lot of that fell this morning, and so some improvement here. But we look off to the East Coast. I want to kind of zoom into this area in red here that you see from Miami up to Fort Lauderdale and West Palm areas. This is the level 3 out of 4 as far as the excessive rain outlook. Already have seen several inches of rain for those areas, and so overall that is something that we are going to continue to keep an eye on out there for you for the rest of this afternoon and evening, where there still is this batch of heavy rain that continues to work its way across the state. So let's go ahead and jump right into SkyTower. I'll give you a look at what we're seeing out there so far. So you see this kind of line that extends basically kind of from parts of southwest Florida right around the Cape Coral, Bonita Springs area, tracking again right through parts of our interior counties. We see some of that coming down, not necessarily too heavy in Polk County, but Highlands County, you are that spot right outside of the Sebring area. All of those heavy downpours continuing, and then this kind of line of showers and storms stretching up into areas just outside of Orlando, further into the Cocoa Beach, the Daytona Beach areas, and Miami. They had some big, robust thunderstorms and heavy rain that were continuing across the southeast corner of the state earlier this afternoon. It looked like they were going to be dealing with some flooding concerns, as we were already starting to get some reports in earlier in the day of some streets flooding around the Miami area. But then that line of storms moved off the coast, giving them a little bit of a break from the rain with a lull in the activity. But a couple of showers right now as we zoom in here for the Alligator Alley area. Pretty light right now in coverage, but you see that across parts of 75. I'm going to go ahead and pause the radar so we can just take a look around at what we're seeing on some of our areas. So right now we zoom in here to the Fort Myers area. Some downpours right around Gateway, kind of stretching up as we head further to the north and east. Parts of 27 right now dealing with some downpours. The good news with all of these showers and storms that we are seeing out there, yes, there is some lightning, but these aren't really heavy as far as the amount of cloud to ground lightning that we are seeing. So even as we zoom out and give you a wide look, hardly any lightning embedded in these. And so gusty winds, but also heavy rain, that really is going to be our main threat looking forward through the remainder of the day today. Let's get a closer look at the Highlands County area. This is the spot where I was telling you we've seen rainfall reports 4 to 7 inches and some slightly higher ones from some people here in the area. But now again, right over Lake Placid, Highway 27 extending where it meets 98. That is another spot where we are just kind of continuing to see for this heavy rain to work their way across the area. And the problem with some of these areas is that we've seen some training, and what we call that training, when showers and storms continue to move over the same areas. You kind of think of it like a train track. They just continue to pump a lot of rain into the same areas. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now in Highlands County. Not too much of a break, and then you see that extend into the Fort Myers area, but really the rest of the greater Tampa Bay area, I mean, nothing going on right now in Sarasota, Manatee counties, even DeSoto and Hardy, generally pretty dry for you. It's kind of the eastern edge of Polk County where we are seeing some of those showers, but a lot of those kind of pulling out as we look closer to the Haines City, Winter Haven, Lake Wales area, down to Frostproof. You see some of those lighter showers, but that coverage really kind of heavier as we head into parts of the Turnpike where, yeah, maybe some issues there as you're driving kind of north to southbound. Some of those spots really under the gun for those heavy downpours. And then I'll give you a look up farther north where there is kind of this isolated area of a pretty decent downpour right now that's kind of right over the Homosassa Springs area. Just to the east of that, you see the Sugar Mill Woods area, a good downpour coming down for you, as well as the Beverly Hills into Lecanto. And it looks like right around Hernando, Inverness, those are some of the spots where maybe you're in the mix for some of these downpours to start to head your way. But the good news is not too much lightning in the mix, so we won't have to deal with too much of that with any of these storms over the next few hours. It's really the heavy rainfall. We need it, but of course you kind of go from one to another. We're talking extreme drought, really dry conditions, and it's good to ease out of the drought, but an event like this where we are picking up on several inches of rain in a short time frame, that can kind of overwhelm some of the soil. So we welcome in the rain. The good news is we start to clear it out though as we look forward. So you see that front, it's going to continue to push across the state through the remainder of our Monday. And so while a couple of storms will be possible, you see more in the way of that heavy coverage really focusing in from kind of the Space Coast all the way down to the southeast coast. So Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, where we had that level 3 out of 4 excessive rain outlook, likely going to see some more of those heavy rounds. And even this is paused here at midnight. Still some of those kind of reinvigorating along this frontal boundary. So through late tonight, we're talking the southern base of the state and all up along the Atlantic coast to see the potential for more of those storms. But now here we are, tomorrow 8 a.m. That front's starting to nudge off the Atlantic coast, and as a result, we start to see more sunshine tomorrow. We continue on that trend through the day Tuesday, and more sunshine expected Wednesday as high pressure builds back in across parts of the Gulf. And so, yes, a couple of showers and storms will be possible tomorrow, mainly sea breeze driven, but then by Wednesday rather, we really start to build in some much drier air out there. And that is going to come with some slightly more refreshing feeling air as well. We've had this very, very humid and high moisture rich air mass that's been sitting over the state to allow for kind of these downpours to initiate. When we get this area of low pressure, we have the lift in the atmosphere. You combine that with the high moisture, and that's when we get those good downpours like we saw yesterday and today. But that humid and kind of soggy air mass gets kicked out of here. The front rolls through, and not only do we warm things up, but the drier air takes hold, where overall rain chances are going to drop off, and we get a little bit of relief from the high humidity. We've been feeling dew points in the mid 70s for the most part, and so we see those kind of trending downward more into Tuesday, Wednesday, and especially Thursday, even some signs of dew points in the 50s to 60s. But that would be more of the kind of extreme dry air. I think we're mostly going to be talking dew points down to the 60s. So still comfortable, but not really talking majorly dry air moving back in. But highs yesterday, they were overall on the cooler side, a below average day, which we have not seen here in a little while due to the clouds, the showers, the unsettled weather. We keep that around today, where temperatures are going to be below average. Notice what we see, though, that steady climb back up as the rain chances go down. We're right back into the 90s come Thursday and Friday. So Tuesday and Wednesday actually still just a touch below average. Barely, though. Our average high is 88. We're going to be back to 87 by Wednesday afternoon. We'll give you a couple live looks here around the area where, yes, we have seen quite a few clouds out there. Still seeing those cumulus clouds bubbling up as we look out from Steinbrenner Field, where actually they saw the first rain delay in Rays history on Saturday as they got swiped with a good downpour that rolled through with a little bit of embedded lightning in that storm to cause that rain delay. Bradenton, this is the view in Bray Park. Quite a few clouds out there. 81 with south-southeast winds continuing right around 9 miles per hour. But this is a nice sight to see. People on the beach right now as those blue skies are breaking out in between a couple of those clouds that still continue off the coast, but a clearing trend is ahead, and overall we should have a pretty nice sunset with kind of that sun cloud mix. It can sometimes create some really beautiful sunsets with those colors kind of bouncing off the clouds. Here's a look at temperatures right now where you can see where the rain is coming down. Haines City 71, Frostproof 72, all of our inland areas low to mid 70s where we are dealing with more of those areas of heavy rain. We get closer to the coast where we start to build in more in the way of low 80s out there, and really up and down the Sunshine State. We're kind of talking mid to low 70s for our rain cooled spots, then mid 80s for the areas that are not really seeing that. With that though, look at these dew points. I mean, it is quite muggy out there. You see some of that drier air up north, Pensacola 59, your dew point 65 in the Panama City area, and then 77 for Key West, Marathon. They are really feeling the heart of that muggy air mass overhead. Here's a look at how the next 12 hours will play out. We stay kind of in the upper 70s through the sunset time frame, and then we'll bottom out a couple of degrees cooler tonight with low 70s to mid 70s for a good chunk of the area. Any showers and storms further inland, those will clear out. So we see some 60s on the board tonight, about 66 for Bartow, Frostproof, 67 in Brooksville, and then we'll be talking kind of the mid-low 70s, I should say, rather, around the Clearwater, St. Pete area. Temperatures ranging from about 72 to 74 for our overnight lows. Then tomorrow, at least we're staying out of the 90s for the most part. We get closer in some of our inland spots, but a high of 85 tomorrow in Tampa, low 80s for some of our coastal spots, and then upper 80s as we head further away from the coast. All right. Guess the camera. Do you recognize this city? I'm going to tell you where it is right on the other side of this commercial break, but hey, not a bad view here. Blue skies, a couple of clouds, but overall pretty nice on the water there. I'll tell you where this shot is right after I send it off to a quick commercial break. Hey everyone, welcome back into the show. Before I send you off to the break, this was your camera view on today's Guess the Camera. Do you happen to recognize this spot? It's not too far off from where we are right now. You can kind of see a similar picture with blue sky meeting up with those clouds. And yes, we're just heading over to Mississippi. This is the view in Bay St. Louis, 76 degrees, feeling comfortable actually. Bit of a breeze coming in out of the southwest, 16 miles per hour. Now, we did see quite a bit of activity over the weekend, from severe storms here closer to us, but also on Saturday morning, an earthquake shaking parts of the southeast. You see where that earthquake struck right near Tennessee, but very close to the border there of North Carolina. And so it was a magnitude 4.1, struck to a depth of about 15 miles. 13 miles southeast of Greenback, Tennessee, and about 60 miles to the south of Knoxville. And you can kind of see just how close it is to the Asheville area even. And this earthquake was really widely felt. There were about 30,000 reports that came through in the first hour of it happening on Saturday morning, a little after 9 o'clock. And a big part of that is kind of the geology is different here on the East Coast. And so when an earthquake happens, these effects can be felt a little bit more widely. Conditions a little bit flatter compared to the West Coast, where we have a lot of mountainous terrain in some of our more prime earthquake areas. So actually, this area of Tennessee and kind of into parts of Georgia and Alabama, this is a more common kind of area for seismic activity, and actually one of the most common in parts of the southeast, where we typically see earthquakes, not so much these large earthquakes, but we have seen some to cause damage. And as we talk about damage, we sure saw quite a bit of storm damage here closer to our area. This in Sebring, the Spring Lake area, where wind damage causing that to kind of what looks like the roof of a church there, just snapping that off. We got that from the Highlands County Emergency Management Team. And also heading north up into parts of the Panhandle, this in Holmes County, that's kind of outside of the Tallahassee area, where you see this aerial footage taken by the sheriff's office there in the Holmes County area. They are looking into what they say is a possible tornado. Looks very much like some tornado damage there, but there were impacts to about 18 structures, one injury that we know of. And you see all of kind of the homes and the properties seeing some damage in this aerial video. And then last but not least, in Destin on Saturday, also a tornado. Started out as a water spout near Henderson Beach, then it turned into a tornado that crossed parts of Highway 98. We also saw some property damage there. Traffic lights were out, and we did see some flood damage there as well. No injuries reported. And this didn't have any video of that Destin tornado or tornado damage, but very close by, this the view in Pensacola Beach, where a water spout coming ashore there, and you can kind of see that footage capturing that as it heads toward the coastline there. Pretty impressive to have seen that caught on camera. It is about that time of the year where we will talk about more water spouts, more severe storms for us here in the Sunshine State. But what's going on elsewhere in the country? This area of low pressure is going to start to bring some higher rounds of rain for parts of the mid-Atlantic, and we can see that spreading across parts of the Tennessee Valley, extending farther into parts of the lower Great Lakes, and we'll see some more showers and storms for the Northeast looking forward. Then as we zoom out a bit more, we are talking some big time heat for northern parts of the country. Look at Rapid City as well as Fargo, 92 degrees. It's not very often where we're seeing temperatures 10 degrees warmer as we head out of the state of Florida. Just look at this departure from normal. We're talking Bismarck, 30 degrees above average. And so we're talking some big time heat for some of these areas. Minneapolis, Green Bay, close to 20 above normal for you. Rapid City, 28 above average. And even from Denver up into parts of kind of the Billings, Montana area, Casper, Wyoming, temperatures there running 20 above average, and that extends out into Salt Lake City as well. And so the big picture here is we are going to be watching this system, one that's in the northwest, going to bring some active rain and snow for that part of the country, and then we'll continue to watch the southeast and the mid-Atlantic as this area of low pressure going to continue to pump in a lot of moisture for parts of the Atlantic heading up into the northeast as well. As for that temperature variety that I mentioned to you, you see where the low pressure system is sitting across parts of the southeast. That's keeping all of these rains and these clouds with us, keeping temperatures below normal. Then we've got this strong southerly flow up north that continues to aid in those above normal temperatures. That kind of coming in on the eastern side of where that low pressure is sitting, just over parts of Oregon and Washington, keeping temperatures cooler for them. So we've got the cool side and the hot side then building in some big time heat for these northern states. So we look at the weather setup for today. Widespread showers are going to be especially east of this area of low pressure, along all of that moisture coming in from parts of the Atlantic, parts of the Gulf as well. And so you see, as we head through the evening hours, areas around Richmond, Washington, Charlotte, Nashville, all in the mix to see some of these showers and storms as this kind of starts to enhance for these areas, even looking ahead to tomorrow. So this upper level low kind of going to progress further to the north and east, and so that is going to allow for more of these rain showers and storms to be ongoing as this upper level low really enhances that, especially on the eastern side of that. So more heavy rain continues along the east coast due to this upper level low. New York, you've had a couple of nice days. Now some showers moving back in for you, extending into parts of Boston as well, though we kind of see the cutoff for some of those areas. So we'll be watching for the east coast and then the northwest as that area of low pressure starts to nudge inland. Showers and some snow showers at that will start to spread furthermore across parts of the Intermountain West, and that is going to bring the potential for some snowy conditions as we look ahead to tomorrow for parts of kind of Wyoming, Montana. Looks like Colorado will be generally spared from the worst of that this time around, but we just got several feet of snow for parts of our Colorado mountains. And then we start to see temperatures kind of vary a little bit more as we look to tomorrow, where we are going to start to build in back to normal temperatures for us here around the state looking ahead the next couple of days. All right, my friends, we are counting down 20 days away from the start of this hurricane season. When do we typically see our first named storm of the year? Well, I'll tell you right after I send it to this quick break. Hey everyone, welcome back into the show. Before I send you off to the commercial break, we are starting to talk about hurricane season as we are talking about those early season storms and when we typically see our first named storm of the year. Let me bring the graphics up to full for you so you can get a better view there. Here's our first named storm by average over the last couple of years. Now on average, we typically see our first named storm of the season on June 20th. But look back to 2020, May 16th. That's just a couple of days out. Luckily, we're not seeing any activity out in the Atlantic Basin right now, but just kind of shows you, even in 2021, May 22nd, that was our first named storm. And then we look to this past hurricane season where we saw an active season for sure, but a late start. June 19th was our first named storm of the season. So that actually did put us very close to average, but farther behind some of our early season storms that we have seen in some of our past years. As we check on water temperatures, those have warmed up. We're seeing some mid 80s here around the state. Clearwater Beach right at 80 degrees. So that puts us just a touch above average for this time in the year and where we typically are seeing our water levels at. And as we talk about those hot temperatures, hot water temperatures, we've been feeling the hot air temperatures as well. We've been above average almost every single day this month. Finally, though, yesterday on Sunday, 83, that put us well below average, our average high this time at 88. Now we look ahead to the next 6 to 10 days, and we are going to be talking more of this above average heat returning. The heat starts to creep in all across the Gulf Coast. You can see that here with this highlighted zone from May 17th through the 21st, above average temperatures, and also we dry things out. You see this kind of notch of this brown color here that's right across the Sunshine State. That's where we are talking about a likely chance of below normal precipitation. And so that is going to be generally the trend here as we look ahead to the next couple of days and into next week. And so one last look of SkyTower radar. We're still seeing a bit of an active picture out there, but most of our more impressive and robust thunderstorms, those are going to fire off for interior parts. So we'll keep a close eye on Highlands County. Still some heavy rain for you. A couple of showers in parts of eastern Polk County, but better coverage is going to favor the East Coast through the remainder of Monday. I'll leave you off with your 7-day forecast. Thanks to everyone for being here with me. I'll see you back here same time, same place tomorrow.